Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another installment of the Salon Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Avocado.
Howdy.
Drew Gafer.
That's not my name, but hey.
Samuel Median.
Howdy again.
And a special guest today, Caleb Gay.
I don't know what happened to Hunter, man. He just kind of disappeared.
Oh.
I thought you said he was in your trunk.
Oh. I'm shaking right now.
Did you kill Hunter, Caleb?
Hunter Ford killed himself.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, okay.
Just like Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh.
Okay, so...
Anyways, in terms of evil and murder, go ahead, Kevin.
No. Please, after you, Sam.
No, I just wanted to
You
introduce
seem
you that
very
way.
ecstatic. Okay, today we will be speaking about the state of nature. Speaking to you guys and ourselves as well. I want to start off by what is the state of nature?
What is the state of nature? As in what the concept is?
Yes.
The concept of the state of nature is basically the idea and study of what the primitive, as soon as humans are introduced into the world, what is their state of good and evil. If they can have good and evil, if they're like in their most primitive state and have not developed yet into society.
So basically, how we should operate as a society.
The state of nature is how humans operate before civilization. How they naturally act. Which,
Okay.
for the most part, up until about...
Well, wouldn't you say that that's like what nurture and nature is? Because nature is how you act and nurture is how you're like being raised.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of nurture versus nature goes into the whole concept of good and evil and what people consider to be good and evil because of how society constructs these ideas. So, I would like to ask every single person, what do you think is the current state of our society? Just
That's a
vague-
loaded question.
Yeah,
That's a big question,
vague-
bro.
vague- yeah.
We live in a society.
It's a broad question with some broad answers, but what do you think? Caleb, our special guest?
I had to go first. Well, when I think of like the society we live in,
Nice.
I'll go
it's
first, Caleb, if it's okay.
No,
if
it's
you-
cool. I
okay.
think we live here in the U.S. This is like when you ask me that question, I just think of like the U.S. in general, in a very hostile society. Like people forgotten how to talk to each other and be rational, and everyone's just angry and scared.
That's
Alright.
a pretty good reason.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Adrian?
That's a loaded question for me because society in its current state right now is there's just a mix of things. There's so much going on in society that is just happening right now. For example, the whole situation with
With Jeffrey Epstein.
that there is society's being changed so much every day something that changes. For example, clothing or the way people say things, visco life versus
Real life.
versus real life. It's just changing all the time because we used to define things by let's say like 90s or 80s or 70s, but that's a whole change and a whole cultural shift almost every decade, but now it's turning into almost every year and it's becoming months. So it's hard to say the current state of society besides what Caleb said, which is, oops, my bad, it's a new hour, and in that it's becoming more bad than good as to what the media really says.
Well, yeah, I agree with Adrian. I think that we're like
Drew, what's your opinion?
advancing rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, it's like what you said. There used to be a whole bunch of like normals, like the 80s, and there's that section, and there's the 90s, and then that had like a certain style and stuff. But now we're getting into a period where it's just like things change very rapidly, and there's not like a year by year thing. It's getting pretty close.
I don't think it's like things changing rapidly. I think it's more of us as a society not having the attention span to deal with things.
Ooh.
Because you look at like in the media, like let's say remember the Greta Thunberg thing, like we all cared about that for like what, a week? And then it's like the next thing, and it's like that with every big thing.
Well,
that
now you
happens.
could say that's
It's like a meme culture as well.
we had the attention on Greta Thunberg, but then Mr. Beast came in and he's trying to plant 20 million trees, and then that's the big thing.
And Elon Musk is at 1 million trees.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a real thing.
Yeah, Mr. Beast is like at 100,000.
He changed his Twitter name to Treelon. It's
It's
amazing.
it's just like the lack of attention to things. Like we can't stay.
Let's get to Hunter. Not Hunter.
You see, get it? Because Hunter's fucking dead.
Oh my god.
To clarify, for legal reasons, that's a joke.
Kevin, what do you think is the current state of society?
We live in a society
Nice.
where gamers are oppressed. More specifically, nah, I'm just messing with you guys, but I've had a lot of time to think about society, the nature of human being, and I say that because back in high school, so long ago, we would always have like these discussions, like Socratic circles about it, and I also had like discussions with my friends, and I used to think that our current society, I mean, it could be better, but how it's run. Alright, actually, never mind. That's like something completely different. I think where we currently are in the world, we've advanced so much to the point where we were advancing exponentially, where each day is something so different. Like, you guys talked about how, like, it used to be decades, now it's like weeks, but before that, it was like the 1800s, the 1900s, the 1000s.
Centuries.
Yeah, it was like centuries, and then like it's crazy how much we've actually progressed. And I think our current state of society is could be improved. I would say with a change here and there, and we will be living in a society, more specifically a perfect one, a utopia.
Do you think we're gonna get towards utopia?
Or
If we change a
dystopia.
thing or two.
But
Like what?
Oh,
Nothing specific, just the thing or
So
two.
I think that in order for us to reach the utopian society, I think we need to discard our individuality and focus on the bigger picture here, which is us surviving as a whole rather than as an individual. And some people have had the idea, some people had that idea thrown out the window, but see, that's something that's not going to happen anytime soon. But if we did change that, if everyone were just to focus on as a group rather than as an individual, people would be willing to give back to society, because what's given to society is what they get back.
well, I don't think is that something that will ever happen. Like in general,
You're right. It'll never
it won't
happen.
happen because people.
Wait, so are you
People are
you s-
selfish.
No,
you s-
it's not even about being selfish. Like, who wants to give up their individuality?
Exactly. No one
That
wants
sounds
to.
like you're
do
headed
that. I don't
towards a
want to.
dys-
I was like, okay, Kim Jong Un.
That sounds more like a dystopia than a utopia, the way you're describing
Well,
it,
a
Kevin.
dystopia and a utopia are
Yeah, that's the paradox right
it's the
there.
whole thing.
There's no such thing as a utopia without having a dystopia, and vice versa. Like utopias lead to dystopias.
A utopia is only a utopia to people who see it like that. If to like individuals, if you get what I'm saying.
Deep.
Yeah, so
That's
okay.
why I'm saying, and you're right. I'm like, for me, I love my individuality, and I don't want that taken away from me. But I'm saying, in order for us to like get to the utopian society, if we change a thing or two, such as the idea of individuality altogether, if we just like move that from the system, well then,
When you say give up your individuality, do you mean like...
I mean, we don't think of ourselves as Kevin, the dude who works at Chick-fil-A, but more as
the state, like fascism.
well, one can. When it can argue state, but like.
Do you mean more like a collective, like we need to learn as society
Like
and
ants,
humanity
like
to
ants
be
and
better?
bees, where there's colonies, and the colonies all work together to survive together, and then they're like,
In this,
So you're saying we should be more altruistic.
perhaps.
that is a big word. What does that mean, Drew?
Altruistic, it's basically when you give up, like, this isn't the exact definition, but it's like partly when you give up yourself for the betterment of like the group. Adrian, can you like look up the definition of that real quick?
What's up?
Make sure I use altruistic right.
Well, while he searches that up, if you were to, on the idea of utopia and types of civilization, let's say you were to strip all of civilization, do you think humans are inherently, like, given the state of humans being without civilization, do you think they are inherently evil, or the evil comes from the idea of civilization or from civilization?
I think it comes from the idea of civilization, because if you take away civilization, society, and everything like that we have like that, then there's no religion, there's no anything, there's nothing to hold you back, there's nothing to tell you what's good or evil but yourself. So yeah, this evil comes from having a civilization and a society and telling you what is good and what is bad.
I got the definition of altruistic right here. It's showing a disinterested and selfless concern. for the well-being of others, unselfish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically giving up yourself for the betterment of the group.
Yeah.
So is that what you think we should do?
Yeah, I don't think that's what we should do. I'm saying I think that that's the steps that would be needed to take in order to get to that utopian society.
So that's what we should do.
Not what we should do, because people
Kevin.
disagree with that.
So how are you gonna say this is what we need to do, but it's not what we should do?
Okay, question.
Because it's not going to like work well when we actually try to implement that. Because no one wants to say, oh, I have 2 cupcakes, so I don't have to give that person my second cupcake when I can have 2 for myself. I worked hard for this cupcake. I want to have this cupcake. There's nothing.
Well, wouldn't that be against the whole idea of everyone being like equal in that sense? Because
Well,
if you
that's
work
what I'm
hard
s-
for something and somebody else wants the same thing without working as hard, in a utopia they would both get what they want.
Yeah.
Hmm. So if someone works even harder than somebody else, then
They get the same thing.
yeah, why aren't they getting the
That's
same
why
thing?
I'm saying it's like, it's like
If the reward for every person is, I guess, equal, just depending on what they want and how they choose to get there, how do you, what kind of government do you imagine this utopia to have? Because it can't be a civilization without government,
okay.
unless
I
you're an
think-
anarchist. But we'll touch on that later.
I was gonna say like if we were to try implementing where we do it for the betterment of the group, and that won't work for large numbers, such as 350 million people and billion people, because that's kind of like fascism, and that's not cool.
Sounds
Or
like
socialism, yeah, but
Okay, cool.
right, but like the whole idea is where, for socialism, for example, is where everyone gets like an equal say, while the government's like okay, so that's a little bit too big to like try to get to. Instead, like a smaller group of like 150 people, like like a smaller community that all work together for the betterment of each other would be the most realistic way to get that like job done, of everyone working to help out each other.
So you're saying a large scale utopia wouldn't be possible?
Well, the only way a large scale utopia would be possible is with the many small groups. And then, so like what?
But then
So
you'd have separate utopias.
I mean, the whole idea, I guess.
You'd have separate utopias, and you'd have different utopias judging each other as dystopias. So
That's
What would a
conflict.
No.
there would be no true utopia in that kind of society, right?
Well, the true utopia would be all of them, like each group's working with each other.
It's kind of like the Hunger Games.
The district.
Oh,
Yeah.
not the
I
Hunger
don't
Games.
know. I
Was
don't
it
know.
Divergent or whatever? Would they have like
I don't know.
four
I haven't
houses?
seen Divergent.
They're the same story.
It's the same.
It's okay. They're all white. All white trilogies of the same story. Okay, so. Okay, so in the idea of utopia, one of the biggest things that's like debated again, because a lot of people debate that a utopia is possible, but a lot of people debate that it isn't because of the existence of greed and how it's quote unquote a natural human instinct, right? So
Whoa, quote unquote from what?
it's just like, not quote unquote, just quotes. Greed, I meant to say just greed, just in quotes. It's like a natural
Okay.
human instinct or whatever. So, how would you deal with greed in that situation?
Well, there would be no greed
How?
because
How would you get rid of the greed?
That's what I'm saying. It's
hypothetical.
a utopia. If we take away the part that makes someone want,
So you think greed isn't a natural instinct we have? You think greed is
I
something
think
that we
it
learn?
is a natural instinct we have, which is why we were able to form our society in this way.
So then how do you take away a natural
You
instinct,
don't take
Kevin?
it away. That's
So
the same
you-
thing with individuality, which is the same thing why I said it's never going to happen, because it's too far fetched.
So you think individuality is like a natural thing?
Yes, I think
so you
that's,
believe in like survival of the fittest, like being on your own,
Social darkness.
like the law of the jungle or whatever, like natural selection, like you on your own will survive and you don't need civilization.
gotta process all of this. Gotta take it into the system, break it down apart, and just compare it to what I've said already.
Well, while you're processing it, I gotta think about greed.
Okay.
So like we don't. It's a natural thing, but not from. Oh shit! I'm sorry. It's a natural thing, but not from. Let's say, what is it called? state of nature, if we had this full reset, like what was it, John Locke talks about, the full state of nature reset, greed wouldn't be a thing that happened immediately. Greed comes with comfort. Once you get complacency, because once you get complacent with how you're living, that's when you want more.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think if we had the full, state of nature? Yeah, Locke says, like the full reset that he hypotheticalizes. The greed comes with complacency.
I mean, this kind of ties in with whole socialism, capitalism. Because if you think about a utopia, like as Kevin would say, it'd be more leaning towards socialism. Because there wouldn't be this idea of greed, and greed is many people like. I mean, it's like completely tied with capitalism. Because if you want something, you have to work for that something, and there's no incentive to work harder when you're in a sort of utopia. Because if you're getting the same thing, then what's the point of doing like the best you can when you can just do just minimum, and then that's it.
Thomas Hobbes says that humans tend to be driven by greed, but that's because he believes that it's kind of like a loose interpretation of his ideas, that he believes that humans are inherently evil, like naturally humans occur like with evil in them, right? But the more technical way of saying it is that they're like humans exist with an inherent state of chaos.
You know what? Rip to Thomas Hobbes, but I'm different. I think he's wrong.
You think he's wrong?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I mean, being born evil and good, that's kind of like a thing that we've created with the how we exist. Good and evil only exist because we have like morals, and those morals don't exist without like a society to live in, or like a nurturing community that we have.
And it's also a choice to be good or evil, unless you're a complete psychopath, which is a lot of people, especially nowadays. When so it's like 1 in 25 people are sociopathic and 1 in 100 are autistic. Fun fact.
Thanks for that.
No
what
problem.
does autism have to do? Anyways, so do you believe humans are born with what John Locke presents to be the blank slate, the tabula rasa?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So, as, let's say, a human is just occurring, right? A human is. And then a group of humans are together, and then they build this civilization. Would their ideas of evil, what would be their ideas of evil?
That's hard to say.
That is definitely, because we don't know anything about them.
But do you think humans, as a civilization forms, do you think humans become more and more corrupted, given their morals?
Well, it's difficult to say because like murder is wrong. But if you go back to like the Mayans, they sacrificed people, but they were like, but no, it's okay because we have a justification for that.
Religion.
So, but they thought, and even though it's killing someone, it was justified, and the people in their village were okay with that. It wasn't like wrong.
I mean, good and evil comes from what you see. Like, let's say we all like had that blank reset right now. What we would perceive as good and evil is what we would see as good or bad. What affects us directly. Like, we're walking down the street and a car hits. Like, let's say it hits you, Sam. We're all walking. It hits you, Sam. We have that blank set. Cars are now evil in our mind because car makes Sam go bye-bye. So make car go bad. Car
Sam
bad.
just died.
It's all.
That's what happened to Hunter, though.
Yeah.
Hunter Ford is dead. Anyways,
My car
so
washed.
okay, so given the current state of society, right now, how do you think we determine evil?
It's something that's okay. So that's a tough question, but what we define as evil is something that is not good. Because no, hear me out.
That's the end of the podcast. Goodbye, everyone.
Hear me out on this one. All right. We were born to learn that this is good and this is not good.
From what?
From our experiences in life, how we were born and raised. Like some
Take
people.
the United States right now.
Mm-hmm.
What set of values do you think dictates in the U.S. right now what is good and what is evil?
Well, one.
That's a hard question.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, there's no set because you go to someone in one state and go to someone in the next state. There's two different.
Like
sets
for
of
example,
values.
marijuana. Marijuana here in Georgia is like, that's the devil's lettuce. But you go to Colorado, and it's like, oh.
What do you mean you haven't smoked at the age of 4? Here's your medicine.
See, that's the thing, because like so many, it's because
Clap.
society is just not one big. It can be one big thing, but it's not. It can be. It's so many. There's like so many subgroups to it that you can be here and you can travel like to not even 100 miles away, and people will act completely different.
Well, okay. So, are we trying to say that things are different good and different bad?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, look
There's
at
a
like
different
this.
interpretation
So
of it.
if I, let's say, killed Hunter Ford, right? Is that good or is that bad?
Well, it depends on.
So it depends. You're saying it
It depends.
depends
Everything
on
really
murder.
No,
depends.
that's wrong, Kevin.
No,
That's wrong.
There's a whole situation of the guy. And I think it was in Texas where a guy shot and killed a person who raped his child, and he.
Oh
You
yeah,
heard about
I
that?
I actually. I
That's a good
that was around like 2010 or something
it's
like
just been
that.
happening for years.
But here's the thing, because I remember I found out about that because I was in church, I was in the youth group, and our youth pastor came up to us and he showed us a news report, and he just showed us a headline like this man in Texas killed another man, and he was set free. And then he asked us what we thought about that headline, and we're like, whoa, if he killed another man, he should be in prison or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because the Bible says do not murder, and I'm talking about Judeo-Christian values, which is what the United States is, based on, and that's not like an idea that's what the Constitution is based on, Judeo-Christian values. But he told us the full story. He told us there was this man, he was at the mall or something, and he saw another man walking with his daughter, right? And then he was like, well, he doesn't know this man, and the daughter was mortified. She was like in a state of like distress and panic, so he killed the guy that was with his daughter. And then we were like, oh well, he should be set free. Why wouldn't that be justified? There was proof presented that the daughter was raped. There was proof presented that like he's tortured.
Jesus.
And then the pastor asked us, okay, but even so, the Bible still says do not murder. So, is that murder good?
I don't think that murder would be good. I think murder isn't bad in that situation.
It's all
Wait,
interpretation.
it's-
Yeah, because
you can say something like
this-
okay. It's all even in how you say things. Like for example, let's say what's a good example of not bringing something really bad into this. Let's say Hitler died. We don't know who Hitler is, but we say Hitler died. How would you think about that?
So taking the fact that we don't know.
We don't. Yeah,
World War
like
II didn't happen.
yeah. What if we're like in a completely isolated country and we hear that some guy the leader of Germany died. How would you feel about that if you didn't know any context, you didn't know anything about what's going on, and you just hear about that? Wouldn't you say that's bad?
I wouldn't
Like
give a
that's not
shit.
good.
Poor guys up there in Germany.
If you had no idea of the current if you had no idea of what was taking place at that time,
Yeah.
and you just heard that that a world leader had died, that would be distressing to some extent, because
So-
you'd be like, oh, that's
I'm also not saying that Hitler is a good
You-
or
you
bad
can
guy.
just-
I'm just saying this as an example.
You don't have to whisper onto the mic. You just say it normally.
So
Wait,
carry
but-
on go say what you're gonna say.
Okay, so by that thought process, by knowing Hitler died without knowing who Hitler is,
And what he did, yeah.
by implication, his death is inherently bad.
But why is it bad?
Because it's the way we interpret it. The context.
Which means that
That's
good
the
and
way
bad.
you interpret it, but everyone's different in the way they interpret things.
Exactly, and that's why there's such a hard way to define what is good
Mhm.
and
There-
what is bad.
There is
What
no,
if
there is no way to have a set in stone definition.
It's
of what
all
is good
culture.
and what
It's
is bad.
all culture.
Alright, so here's the thing about murder. Let's strip the idea of good and evil from it for now. Murder is like the exact like textbook dictionary definition of murder is illegal killing. Yeah, Google it. Okay, so Thomas Hobbes says that humans are like the state of nature is a state of war. So, given let's say there's no society, right? We're back to the state of nature. There's that reset. Do you think there would ever be a time for killing if there is no set of laws?
Yeah,
Wait,
that's all there would be.
hold up. Say that one more time. You said if there was a reset.
Yeah, let's say it's the state of nature. There are no laws. We're humans. We're just naturally occurring humans right now, uncorrupted by civilization. Do you think there would be times to kill other humans? In the same way a lot of animals kill other animals because of mating or like...
That's
Well, I think at
attack
that
reasons.
point it'd probably be survival, and probably ties into survival. of the
Yeah, if
fittest.
you're saying we took away culture and society and civilization, would we kill each other? Probably yes.
But
So,
is there a time for killing?
I mean, what do you
there-
mean
okay,
by is
well,
there?
I
a
think-
time?
Why would we kill each
I
other?
think the only time a killing would be justified in terms of that is for the, in terms of survivability. I was playing The Last of Us, and without spoiling too much, or actually,
You
really,
can spoil the hell of it. It's been out for since
2013.
2013.
6
Everyone
years.
in the world has played it, but you.
okay. But what about someone who's been uncorrupted by civilization? They haven't played it.
Well, they're not listening to this.
Well, you don't know that.
Yeah,
Maybe
you
they're
don't. Yeah, your interpretation is flawed.
Yeah.
Okay, in
I'm
that
a
case,
flawed human being.
let me a generic post-apocalyptic setting, right? After something happens, in many events there is a murder and or not murder because there's no civilization. There would be killing of other
Yeah.
people for the sake of survivability. In terms of The Last of Us, an old man and a young girl had to kill other people in order to survive. In the Fallout series, there was a lot of death because the main character had to survive while other people were actively trying to kill them. I think in the case where there was that reset button, which in this case would be like post-apocalypse, because at that point civilization is gone, there would be killing, and I feel like it would be.
It would be.
Let me stop you right there for just 1
Yeah,
second.
I'm stopping.
Okay, so even if there was a post-apocalyptic situation such as a nuclear fallout, like in the Fallout series, there's always a civilization that rises back up. For example, in Fallout New Vegas, you have the Strip. You have New Vegas in its entirety, which is a completely civilized place. You have factions of militaries, which they have their own set of rules and all that kind of stuff. The NCR, Legion of Kaiser, and all that. It's Fallout 4. You have Diamond City. You have all these, and you have, and they have their own interpretations of good and evil as well. May that be whether murder is good or not. They also have different types of civilizations as well. For example, I don't even remember what the in Fallout 4, which there's another town. It's for like ghouls because ghouls are outlawed in Diamond City. It's kind of like it can even be implied it's racism there in the game, which is a civilization thing. And people think, and their interpretation of racism is also kind of either good or bad. Because some people may think, especially back in the earlier times, for like, let's say, 18th century, people thought black people were just bad people. Or just anybody besides, European, white, or quote-unquote American. They think that people that are not them and they don't look like them are objectively worse just because the tone of their skin.
Well, okay. So,
And people think that was bad?
Here,
people think that was
let me
bad.
ask you guys: is racism bad?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Was it
Duh.
okay in the 1800s to be a race? Like, was the what
Society.
What they, okay, hold on.
I know what you're trying
What
to
they
say.
did in the 1800s, was that okay?
No.
Society accepted it to be okay, but as we look back on it now, we know it's not.
And we
okay.
realize there's no biological differences between me, a Latino man, compared to
Fake
my
Latino,
friend,
fake Latino, fake Latino.
to Drew Miller, or my dad, Drew Gafer, in this situation. We share the same biological things. We are more alike than emperor penguins are to other emperor penguins. Even though we look completely different. Even
Okay.
fruit flies, at that. If I will.
Flies and penguins or fruit flies and fruit flies?
Do you okay?
Wait. Hold.
I forgot what I was gonna ask. Anyways, go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sam. But so we understand that what happened in the 1800s was not okay. Was it ever okay?
So
No.
as society accepted it as being okay,
But
but
what-
as we look back on it now,
By their standards,
by their standards it was okay, but by our current standards, no, it's horrible.
So no, it's horrible. Which means, and you said that now, which means later down in the future, would it be okay to be a racist again? If
I
it
don't
came back.
think
to
so.
it?
No.
And okay, in my
No,
pers-
I'm just saying because like if there's no official
asking
good
for
or
a friend.
evil.
in my personal opinion, no, it wouldn't be. But that's me. That's not, as a society as a whole, we have no idea what's going to happen, what kind of
It's
events
a
will
So,
happen.
general
so there is no
understanding.
good or bad when it comes to racism.
There's no
It just
good or
dep-
bad anything. That's the way I view it. There's no
Let's
good or
make
bad
one
anything.
thing clear: racism is bad.
Okay? I just feel like we have to clarify that because y'all are going on a weird path right now.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, as a society, there's no set in stone good or bad. It changes from individual of what every person thinks is
But
good
in
or
a general setting, there is a good and bad.
Well, in a general setting, that's,
yeah, there
that's
can be in a
assuming-
general setting, yeah, but then you can have people within that setting that don't
individual.
agree with the good
There's
or
a
bad.
difference between individual and then there's groups. Let's
take the whole. Let's just take the entire written history of society as we know it, right? As we've progressed, as time has passed, change has come in quicker and quicker. Would you argue that, let's say, we're in the safest time period, and I don't mean in terms of technology, I mean in terms of the way humans view each other, we are in the safest point of history, at least in living. We're in the least danger of being killed by each other now than we were 100 years ago.
That's a toughie.
Being killed by someone else. I
It-
think so.
Are you talking about
I feel
us
like
as
we need to pull
individuals
up
or us as a
statistics
whole
for that.
society or
Us as a whole.
okay?
You think there's more or less reason now for us to kill each other than there was 100 years ago? Or 200 years ago, really?
I think it's almost the same in a way because there's less of the reason back there was 200 years ago of food, people starving. We don't have as many people starving to death. We don't have as many people getting sick and needing medicine, all that stuff. But we have different issues of why people want to kill each other now.
We're reaching.
I think there's different levels because, at a personal level, typically people don't need to kill each other. We're at a state now where people can just exist with each other, but as a whole, as a collective, humanity is kind of in a different positions because with the invention of nuclear weapons, that's created something entirely different.
Oh yeah.
So especially since the Cold War, we've gotten very tense with each other because there's that risk that we might, as humanity, die at any second because we can become agitated at each other. It's very.
We're walking a very thin
it's
ice.
it's a loaded question. Yeah, you're right.
So,
So
what
there's
about,
definitely more tension, but there's more reason for us not to kill each other.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
But
good. That's the
would it
answer
be
I was looking for.
justified? Well, I'm still confused. So can one justify death? Or let me rephrase that: the killing of another.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can justify anything you want. It's
I mean,
just the fact that
there's been
society accepts it as a
justifications
whole.
since the first, probably even the first time someone killed somebody. For example,
Okay.
even hunters and gatherers, they've killed each other because they have. I'm talking about what was it?
One pack would have more
Yeah,
food
and
or
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, killing has always been justified. We just talked about the
It's just-
rapists being murdered.
Mhm.
We talked, I think, as mentioned earlier, about the Mayans sacrificing each other. The hunters and gatherers. Killing can be justified. It's just that how we view killing and its different interpretations can be considered good or evil because of how culture and with the way we were raised deems it.
It all depends on the justification for it, whether we perceive it as good or evil.
All right. So let's say hypothetically that I were. But I
It
mean,
reminds me of Ben Shapiro. Let's say, hypothetically, as a matter of fact, that I.
am gay.
but you are. No, because his last name is gay, so I'm not assuming anything. That's
Just
his
say my
actual
social
thing.
security number next. Or
Oh.
I would say mine, but
I'm kidding.
What do you know?
no, but I don't think.
What's your
'Cause,
hypothetical?
No, well, it's not really hypothetical, but no, because we're trying to say that there will be times where it's okay to kill somebody.
Like war.
Yeah, between soldier and soldier. But of two different.
Is killing
armies.
justified during war though?
I
Because
don't
you're.
think- I don't want to say that killing is justified at all. If we're gonna.
That comes down to a question about war itself.
Oh,
And that's more
there's
of
a, there's a
No,
great
I'm not
movie
talking
on,
about,
on killing and
well, we're
war
talking
that I
about-
just watched.
Justification of killing. Who is doing the justifying here? Us as a society, us as the individual. Who's justifying this?
Let's say you
But I
as
don't
an individual.
think
You as an
that's
individual?
fair.
Okay, I think that is fair. I mean, because think about it, we're all different. No two people are exactly the same. So we all have different opinions on death and killing and murder. Just like we have different opinions on everything.
Because personally, if on an individual level, and I think really on any level, if you are a soldier and let's say you're forced let's say you're forced to be on a battlefield and you have no other option, and you just end up on the battlefield, I think it would be justified to kill other people to ensure your survival if you're one of those people who believes in survival of the fittest.
But yeah, at that point, it does become based on survivability. But let's say there was a situation where it wasn't about survivability. Like, Hunter, I don't like his, Volkswagen Jetta. And let's say that's why I killed him.
Let me just run him over with it, right, guys?
If that's why you killed him, then that ultimately falls to you. It falls to society to judge you
I
for
don't
it.
feel like that's justified, but it couldn't.
That's
shouldn't
you.
be.
That's you driven by greed. But when you go back to the battlefield, let's say you're that soldier. Let's say wanting, you preferring yourself to be alive over the guy you're about to kill. Wouldn't that also be greed? Would you think that would be driven by greed? You prefer your life over another, because there's a whole idea. Like, there's two ideas when it comes to survival of the fittest. One is you're the strongest, you kill everyone in your way, or you get everyone in your way out of your way. And there's survival of the fittest in terms of nourishment. You're the strongest, so you help the weaker ones build your status as the strongest. So if you were to kill someone on the battlefield and you were to not let them kill you, do you think you're killing them based on greed, or because it's just a natural thing that you need to survive? Because you're going to die eventually.
Yeah, but I want to die by myself. I don't feel like.
Well, that's kind of like
Murder
a
should be-
catch-22, where you're only murdering someone because you think they were going to murder you.
There's an amazing movie, called. Well, there's an amazing person. How about this? Let's the movie's a bonus. In World War II, there's a famous combat medic known as Desmond Doss who fought on the famous one of the bloodiest battles, Hacksaw Ridge, and
In Okinawa, Japan.
in the war in the Pacific. And what he did, he had this ideology that he shouldn't kill, that no matter what reason. It's crazy, the events that led up to it are insane and also true, which is, I find absolutely insane that he's in the military and he just does not want to kill. I mean, I understand his reasoning, but if you want to be in the military, you should be at least prepared to at least kill somebody. But his interpretation of murder, it did not matter whether it was a quote-unquote enemy or it was anybody, even his family. He wouldn't even do it to his family, even though there was a situation where he was going to. But his interpretation of murder / killing / wounding anybody, he did not want to do it. He never held a single weapon besides scissors, I think it was, and his medical stuff. And that's all he did throughout the war, was just help others. Because if you can take someone's life in a war, what's the point of letting people die and breaking a nation when you can just fix it and make it better?
Mm-hmm. So that's
it's
that idea of survival of the fittest by nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
Because he still wanted to live.
Yeah, of
he
course.
just didn't want to kill other people to achieve that goal.
And I know what movie you're talking about. I've seen he does still do survival of the fittest. Isn't there a point where he plays dead and a trench and
he hides under a dead body.
Yeah, so he's still trying to survive. He's not out there going crazy
willing.
Shoot me.
He also fun fact, he also helped an enemy soldier. Because it was a gunshot wound, if I remember correctly, and he was inside one of the underground tunnels, and he was like, "Let me help you." And the guy was in shock because he didn't because his interpretation that he was a bad guy until until Desmond was like, "Hey, let me just heal you up," and then he leaves.
You need a med kit.
And he didn't even kill him. He found that so obscure, and I think there was something to do with him. That same person going back from the war and it's saying something about it. That same person who DOS, yeah.
Well, that all goes down to war itself. Wars, the bad guys in a war is just the opposite team.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is to us. Let's say we're
There's
in the
only bad guys because the way we view it from where we are
and
now.
they view us the same way. With the conflict in the Middle East, they view us as the bad guys. So there's no, again, that goes back to everything we're talking about. There's no defined thing of right and wrong.
It's like
it
in
changes
World
from
War
person
One.
to person.
In World War One, there's not really a bad guy because that was a whole bunch of countries conflicting with each other. And now we look back on it and we say, "Oh, the Axis, that was the bad guys." But that's only because we won, and we determined that because we won, we are the good guys.
Are you trying to justify something, Drew?
That's World War II.
This is World War. We're talking about World War One here.
I know. Well, I know you guys are talking about World War One. I'm just saying.
Am I trying to justify World War One?
Are you a fan of Franz Ferdinand?
No, I don't like their music.
Are you? Are you
Funny moments in the podcast. Episode 5.
What happened to Noah?
Okay, look. Okay, so let's stray away from war and let's talk about peace. Okay, so here's this thing.
Man, I wish.
I googled this. In 1998, the Secretary of Defense stated that as of 1968, during the past 3,421 years of human history, only 268 have been free of war. 206 of those years were during something called the Pax Romana, which is considered the golden age of the Roman Empire, where there was 200 years of no external conflict or internal conflict. It was just peace for 200 years. And the other, 62 years was, I honestly don't even know.
Just random years.
So do you think we can achieve something like that again, now that we've progressed as a society?
No, absolutely not. No.
Why is that?
Because
society is just flawed. Even back then, there was no the idea of peace is back then was very general compared to now, which is there's always something going on that's either good or bad, and there's always conflicts, whether that be internal or external, and we always have little how do I say this, little issues going on.
I think that we definitely, not to say no, it's never going to happen.
It is possible, though.
It could happen, but it's unlikely because of how
Different.
global we are now. The
Oh,
world's
yeah.
very global. We don't exist simply as the United States. Like Rome did, because Rome was just that. And then there was other countries around there, and they were doing their thing, but it wasn't really trying to get involved with Rome. But nowadays we're so involved with each other and trying to help everyone out, and even us, we tried to help out the Amazon because the forest was burning, so we're oh, what can we do to save the Amazon? So it's just we can't really exist in a truly peaceful world because we'll always have conflicts with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's because even if we say there's no internal conflicts, there will be external conflicts with other countries and stuff.
unless one nation, battle royale, takes over the world. That way, the only types of conflicts you can have are internal conflicts.
But then it wouldn't be a golden era.
Every
because
time I
it'd be
think
internal
of-
conflicts.
But that's if, because we can. This is why. I mean,
Okay, Hitler.
Every time I think of one
Not
nation,
Hitler.
I keep thinking of
Napoleon Bonaparte.
sci-fi
Oh,
shows.
God. Oh,
Indivisible.
liberty and justice for all.
What are you talking about?
When we're talking about one nation, I always think of sci-fi movies because when you see different planets, it's just one nation in planets. I mean, it is fiction, but it's so real that it is a possibility that could happen.
Fiction does a good. Okay, I think we all like a good story, right?
Yeah.
See, okay, wait. You're saying you're talking about in sci-fi other planets?
It's just one. It can be even like a federation, in Star
Talk
Trek.
about Star Wars.
Like in Rick and Morty.
Oh my god.
Well, what would cause? I think why it would be like that is because there would be an external force no longer on Earth, someone else outside of Earth, and that being the external conflict. So then, as humanity, we would come together, and that would be our one golden era. The golden era only comes, with alien invasions, but it's whatever.
Fun. Oh, you mentioned Rick and Morty, right?
No, I didn't. No, please don't do this. But back to the conflict thing.
No,
I didn't
no,
want to
no.
talk about the whole conflict.
I mean,
thing.
there is a good
So
example.
isn't it funny how in Rick and Morty, it's a galactic federation. It's so, large. It spans galaxies. Yet by the press of one button, they were able to end it all. Just because it was it was just paper money that had no real value. Only had value because the government had value.
Oh,
So that's all money.
That's no, it's not all money. Because our money doesn't have the gold standard anymore. So our physical money is literally worth nothing. It is only worth something because we as a society, as a creed, is worth something. Because it used to be, what was it? I forget the year.
It
But
used to be silver, then gold,
Yeah, it used to
and
be
then
gold. Our money,
Oh, wait,
$1
gold,
used to be this much worth this much gold. But now it's literally not worth anything ever since they got rid of the gold standard.
Well, it's only worth something to us because we believe it is worth something.
Because we agree as a society that it's worth something.
Right. That's how all money
Which
works.
means if for some reason government
Germany after
stops-
World War One felt that.
Oh, yeah, they were after World War One, they were
The Weimar Republic.
yeah. Point is they had I wouldn't say a good run in World War II, but they definitely had the advantage.
What the fuck?
Well, okay, You can't deny that because many historians like agree with that because they had like shotguns and like mustard gas that they
U.S.
had
funding, cough, cough, cough. Anyways, we're not gonna
because
get
they
into
had
any of that.
they had so much stuff. They were the advanced like society, quote unquote, like the advanced nation. But then once they lost the war, like all their money became worthless.
Almost
right?
like it happened the first time.
Oh, that is the first time.
Okay, look. Let's say
I'm saying that they had a reset
They-
after they were
yeah.
so far.
they
which
were
means
they were talking about sci-fi and all that. So I have this other general question that I wrote down. How does art reflect the state of nature and society?
I think it's really
Drew
good.
Miller, how does art affect the state of nature society? I played a wonderful game, a wonderful piece of art recently. It was called Detroit Becoming Human.
So good. It
It's
was great.
fucking amazing. But when did it come out? When did Detroit Becoming Human come out?
2016,
2017?
2017? I
It
think.
came in
It
like
came out. It came out
last
around the
3
time.
years.
A couple
Yeah.
years ago.
And these last times we've been having a lot of, let's say Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. People rising up for want to be.
Mhm.
No, I don't want to say this as they're not accepted as a member of society, but they want to be accepted
They
as
want to
members
be
of
like
society.
recognized. And
They
like,
want to be
this is-
recognized that this problem,
Respect.
that
There's
this
an
is a
issue.
problem and respect that needs to be addressed. And I feel like that game very well reflects what was going on in that time.
Mhm.
Because I was talking about it, let's say there's androids in the game and they begin to want to be free and they want to be accepted as members of society. So yeah, that's a pretty good reflection of especially the time period in the U.S. and the place it was happening.
Yeah, I think art definitely is more of a reflection of society rather than it affecting society. I think it could affect society, but there's definitely more. It's more like a mirror, you know.
Yeah, it more reflects the state of society than like the
Like
when was it? I
Are you talking
remember.
about the painting by the Spanish dude?
Yes,
I like how we both
we
knew
both clicked. It was the Spanish Inquisition, wasn't it?
Inquisition. No. It was when
nobody
Napoleon was doing the takeover of Spain, and it was like
Yeah, it
really
was
bad.
Napoleon. Yeah, Napoleon was trying to take over Spain, and then this guy, I forget his name. He was very popular back then, and he was like a celebrity back in his time. But basically, he would draw the atrocities that the French would commit to the Spanish, like the torture, like the unusual methods of like torture and stuff. So that's definitely that affected society. Okay, so I'm distracted right now because Kevin has been running around the room for the past 5 minutes, and Andrew Miller, our lovely person.
Homosexual.
He's been trying to get him to sit down, and Kevin just refuses for whatever reason.
Yes,
What were you saying, Sam?
Anyways, so that's a case in which art does affect society because that is what causes Spanish to be like, hey, that's not cool, you know? And actually, one of the things that art is doing, okay, this film, we're talking about modern film right now.
Came out a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Came out,
Or-
what is it? What is it based? Gotham City?
Yeah, something like that. But basically, this film, by a character, it's not very popular, but Joker. He,
Wait, was it the one starring Joaquin Phoenix?
Joaquin Phoenix, the greatest actor of our day. Yeah. Anyways, we're not getting into
It's
that.
a very heated
But
discussion.
this movie was intended to reflect the current state of our society and how we mistreat weirdos or like outcasts, the mentally ill, other races. Even though it had those racial undertones, they were just like super embedded, and it wasn't as significant as just the entire idea of how society mistreats weirdos. And we can get into the debate of anarchy all day, all the time, but this film recently, in the past few days, actually became, instead of reflection, it affected the way society works because of the whole thing going on in Hong Kong and stuff. People are using the Joker as a symbol.
Are they really using the Joker mask?
There a lot of people in not the mask, the paint, the face paint of the Joker. A lot of people in Hong Kong have been reported. They've been a lot of people have been arrested with that face paint on because what the film represents is what they feel right now.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
It's actually affecting what's going on. I did not realize that.
And a lot of because of it, they're not necessarily using more violent methods, but they're using more anarchist methods. If that makes any sense, which is why it's a lot the whole Hong Kong thing. I couldn't tell you what it's about. But I know something.
TLDR, China is going to take away Hong Kong's free speech.
Okay. So
Keep going.
okay, yeah. So so if they're gonna take away their free speech, then obviously this is something people would want to act against because in our modern society, free speech is like the driver, because without free speech, we wouldn't have like social media, or we wouldn't have a lot of like new knowledge and information that we had, that we didn't have before. So yeah, and that happens a lot, but I think you're right. Art tends to reflect society more than it tends to affect it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does anyone want to add anything to that?
Sorry.
Any other pieces
That
of
was
art?
I only had to think about Detroit Becoming Human in the time period it came out. It was because it's nice.
Adrian, do you have any examples of art reflecting or affecting society?
Reflecting society, or anything representing towards that. That's tough because there's a lot of movies depicting how society can or can not.
Well,
be.
we don't even have to go on movies, because like let's think about this. Let's think about this is the biggest thing I thought of while you guys were talking. Because everything's art. Books is art. Music, games, paintings. Well, if you can look at anything like that as art, John Locke's Common Sense. It's art, and that to me that's one of the biggest effects of art on society.
Wasn't that Thomas Paine?
It's one of the fuckers. I don't know. But yeah, that's a huge effect on society.
Oh, I just thought of the perfect example. Uncle Tom's Cabin. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
I do not remember who wrote that, but that was like arguably in terms of fiction and literature, that was like the catalyst for the upcoming movement against slavery, and ultimately, but not really until like the 60s, racism. So yeah, I think that's. I think we're out of fuel here, gamers. This is
We are with the art part.
Yeah,
The reason-
it's a very difficult question to answer. Like, why there is evil? How does one determine what is evil? What is our state of nature? Because we have the two biggest views.
Mm-hmm.
The Thomas Hobbes side that says we're all inherently evil, or we're always in an inherent state of chaos, and thus we're always in a state of war, at least naturally. And we got John Locke saying like, nah, we're born with the blank slate. We're clean. There's no such thing as good and evil until, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau later adds on to this, we're corrupted by society. And the more you live in a society, the more you're corrupted by it.
And I think we've been handling that one question wrong with the who was it, the current born in a state of chaos?
Thomas Hobbes.
Thomas Hobbes. Because I think we've been looking at chaos as evil, but I feel like we should look at chaos as distress.
Wait, actually,
Because we've been handling it as good and evil, but it says chaos, and we should really handle it as distress. Or
What Thomas Hobbes says is that we're in a state of chaos, and that's why. And he also talks about in his Leviathan, talks about the sovereign, like the idea of having a sovereign, like one king, or at least in that time it was a constitutional monarchy. So it was like that's what chaos is. That humans need the state of chaos, so they can form this government that later writes history. Kevin?
One of the laws of thermodynamics, I forgot which one, is that everything is naturally drawn towards entropy. Entropy being, lots of movement, chaos, and everything like that. So, it just reminded me of that specific law of thermodynamics. Yeah. So, because that's physics, right? Physics. Yeah. So physics said that the third, I think it was the third one, where everything is drawn towards entropy, where we will get that reset that we mentioned earlier, and that if we manage to survive that entropy, or experience it, I think we will be able to see what humanity really is, and not just the depictions seen by the art that we mentioned earlier.
So you think humanity is moving towards like a societal entropy?
Well, we will eventually get there.
Well, yeah,
And
there's
what would that
always.
entail? What would the societal entropy be?
I don't know. But most likely, based on... Because here's the cool...
Do you think it would be a cycle? Like, there would be states of entropy, and we try to fix it, then it'll happen again, and we'll try to fix it.
Oh, I think we've been
happen
trying to
again.
prevent it for a long time.
Mhm.
But that's like, I don't know, needing to use the bathroom and then just holding it for a long time. Like
For an
it's-
hour, like I've been for this entire episode.
I have to, which is why I was dancing around
That's
the main-
why we are going to do the first time the Salon Podcast is going to do an official potty break. So what's going to happen is, what will feel like 20 minutes for us is going to be just 2 seconds for you. So, that being said, the potty break will begin now. And we are back. Welcome. The potty break was just only a few minutes, which is just Not even a second for you guys.
Hey, so I checked on Hunter's body. He's not there anymore.
So Hunter is pronounced officially, legally missing from today's society. Whether that be good or bad, that is your own interpretation.
Okay, so Mr. Caleb Gay here is really hyped about that question about the inherent state of chaos. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's because we've been looking at it wrong. We've been just because we were in the mood of talking about good and evil, but his proposal wasn't about something evil. It's about being born in a state of chaos. And like, let's think about it. Like when a human being is born, it's pretty fucking chaotic. Like you're just coming out of a hole like screaming, covered in blood. I think that's pretty damn chaotic. So yeah, I think we are born in a state of chaos and a state of stress. It's something. But like, if we did have that clean slate and we were reborn, so to say, of that clean state of nature, then yeah, it'd be pretty damn chaotic, and then not in a like good or bad way. Just it'd be chaotic. We'd be scrambling to find food and water, shelter. Just basic survival. I think it'd be chaotic.
I think that chaos is kind of like
agree.
an animalistic nature kind of thing, not like the nurture sort of society culture that we have. Because chaos is more like when you think chaos, you think without like a society to live in, which I know we've said this a lot right now.
Society.
But like it's the culture that we have that determines whether something's chaotic or not. And right now we're pretty ordered.
Well, I don't think chaos again is like a society thing. I think it's just an energy thing. Like, what's the definition of chaos when it comes to like energy? You smart boys.
Chaos.
Definition time.
The definition of entropy is a lack of order, or it is disorder in terms of energy in the universe.
You know what
A complete disorder or confusion is chaos.
this reminds me of if any of you guys ever played D&D, the alignment chart?
Yes.
Where I was looking into it like a few days ago, and originally the original alignments were just good and evil. Good to evil, but then they thought more about it, and like it's more than just good and evil.
There's always
That's why they
something in
add
between.
the lawful to like chaotic thing. For
Neutral, chaotic. There's even chaotic good.
Chaotic.
Yeah,
neutral.
which is just having no care for the law, which is
But being a
kinda-
naturally good person.
Yeah, which
Arthur Fleck felt that.
Well,
Well, anyways.
he kind of became chaotic evil.
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement that humans are born into a state of chaos. It's only when we begin
It's
to
only
have
when
a
we
soci-
realize
it's only
develop.
when we realize and develop and we have a society that the chaos starts to fade.
I think one thing that really puts that chaos in order, and whether it's a good or bad thing is obviously up to the individual's interpretation, but religion definitely was definitely in quotes created to keep people in check or to keep people in order to get rid of that
It's to
chaos.
give that sense of security that it's like, what was it? I heard
it's
something earlier.
why people
in
build
the
civilizations.
Hobo Johnson song, when people are afraid of death, the religion came about to give them that sense of security that you don't have to be scared of death.
I think that's what obviously people can have different ideas, but I personally believe that civilization exists for that sense of security. Because some people are like, well, if we live in a civilization, then we're corrupted by the evil morals, and thus we're in more danger than we were before we were in our when we were in our natural state. If that makes any sense. So I think a good thing to do is to, I guess, sort of, now that we have this whole idea, or at least our own ideas about what good and evil is, what the state of nature is, and how current society is in contrast to it, we can restate the question from the beginning. What do you think is the current state of society now that you have this idea of the state and nature in your head, and whether good or evil is up to the individual or to society as a whole? I don't know. We can start with Caleb, our special guest.
My current state of society still kind of stands from the beginning. It's I feel like the chaos is, I know it's changed a little bit. I think my wording can change, but chaos is starting to grow. In a way, it's getting more chaotic. It's very energetic, and our attention span isn't really there. We're just changing. There's so much happening in our current society that we just can't hold attention on one thing, and it's getting very chaotic, and there's still more hate growing, and people just aren't understanding what's going on. And it's being really hard to talk to one another.
Adrian?
Honestly, I kind of stand with Caleb on this one. But however, it's all interpretation of our state right now because so much is going on that society's pretty much almost changing by the days and how we act. I mean, we do have a similar, a general ideology of what is, like we say, good or evil, but that changes and people become more lax or more lenient on what is good and what is bad, and the bad things can be less bad as time, continues going on. Kevin?
I think my view on society has changed with this new enlightenment of this amazing discussion. I think now the state of our current society is one of a rubber band being stretched out until it will just snap. That snap, I don't know what it might be, but we're getting pretty close to it. We're pushing our limits, and it's finna be lit.
Seem very pessimistic, Kevin. Thank you.
I never said that was a bad thing.
Okay, Thanos.
Let's hear your thoughts, Drew.
I think that. What was the question? I forgot.
What do you think is the current state of society?
It's kind of very what we said earlier. It's very moving at a rapid pace, and I think that just people have a lot of different ideas about what is right, what is wrong, what we should do, what we shouldn't be doing, and that just there's a lot of different subjective, personalized ideas, and they're all very vocal about it. So it's just that we need to learn how to communicate with each other. Like what Caleb said, we're getting angry at each other, and I just think that we should be able to communicate instead of being angry.
Definitely.
Sam?
Yo.
I guess unpopular opinion, I think we're at the best we have ever been as a society, because while there is still a lot of conflict and war, it's not to the same degree as it used to be in the past. And it's for more, I guess some would say stupider reasons, but I think that's what we're trying to achieve. We're just trying to achieve more of like unity, and I mean, yeah, there will always be conflict, but we've reached a point where now we're arguing about the stupid things rather than like things that determine what everyone's life, like in the entire planet, or at least in the entire world, like I guess throughout history, like the European world or the African world or the Asian world would be in, So I think we're at a pretty stable point in society right now.
But don't you think we've been at this like stability for like a good minute now? There's been a really long time since there's been a huge armed conflict. And like Kevin said, there's this rubber band just stretching and stretching and stretching and stretching. Don't you think they're to the point where it'll snap and then there's going to be this huge conflict?
Well, if we stretch it enough, eventually whoever's stretching the rubber band is going to be like, oh, I don't want this to snap on me. That's going to hurt. Then they just let it go and it'll go back to the way that it was.
And
I think, any closing thoughts?
Well, I think that even if you let go of a rubber band, like even if I stretch it out, let go, you usually hear that snap as like all that power just comes back together. Like it doesn't have to break, but like the rubber band. I'm saying, but unless you slowly like release the tension of that, then something gonna happen.
Or it could just it'll get to a point where it just stays like that. It'll get used to the tension and it'll just remain constant.
All I gotta say, closing statement, we live in a society.
We really do live in a
I
society.
got one closing statement. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
You're correct, sir.
We live in a society.
The proof is there.
And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our 5th installment of the Salon Podcast. Thank you for listening and tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, upvote, and tweet, and reply, keep the support going on.
Alright, if you've listened thus far, we would just like to say that we have an idea. It's a kernel right now, but we're definitely working on it to move the entire, I guess, idea of the Salon being a podcast to it being a multimedia platform.
Oh yeah.
Where we could do like anything from make songs to continuing the podcast or making a short film, which we're trying to do. But it's an idea, and definitely thank you for the support and thank you for listening.
And with that being said, again,
How long can we drag this?
Like goodbye. Out.
Just turn off the audio.
And-
It's like when you like say goodbye to somebody and walk the same direction.
I did that with one of my friends a while ago.
just the third time's the charm, if you will. As I previously stated, thank you for tuning in, and
With that being said,
for the 4th time,
Oh my
if I will,
Just close it. Just turn it off.
have a good philosophical day.
or not.
See you later.